How's it going, YouTubers? Here bringing you guys another Digimon deck profile today. I know it's been a minute since I've uploaded anything. Had to reset, had to get some real life stuff taken care of before we could get back into some recording. But now that that's all caught up, we're going to go ahead and show you guys one of the funnest decks that I've played in the BT8 format. Yes, it is not, you may see these eggs and think maybe it's yellow hybrid. It is not yellow hybrid. If you saw from the thumbnail, it is 5-colored yellow Jogras, 5-colored yellow DNA Digivolve. Been one of the funnest decks I've played. Not super top tier. I had to make some changes to this list. I'll go over some other ways that you can build the deck list. I've tried it out a couple of ways. Some are better than others in certain matchups, so I'll go over those as we get to them. Before we hop on the deck list, I want to say thank you guys so much for all the continued support. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be having more of this, more deck profiles, more gameplay videos, and some ruling videos, especially coming up with the EXO2 set. And leave any comments down below about any other questions you may have about the list. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the profile. Alright everyone, so first and foremost, of course, when you go over a profile, I like to go over the eggs. We're going to have 4 copies of Upamon and 1 copy of Koromon. So the thing about with Upamon is we're usually going to be, if we don't mind getting to 3 security, we can usually recover back up, so the extra draw from Upamon is very solid. And then also whenever you're at 3 security, Koromon comes up. I've had it come up where I was able to clear an entire board of about 4 things because of this 1k from Koromon, so I really do enjoy the Koromon. You could maybe run Kupimon because there's a decent amount of time we're at 5 security, but I do like the Koromon. So that is going to be it for our egg choices. Now we're going to go into our level 3s. First off, we start off with 4 copies of Armadillomon. Since we are running 5-color DNA Digivolve, you can imagine there's a decent amount of dual-colored cards, and all of them contain yellow. So because of that, Armadillomon basically searches out your entire deck. So being able to dig 4 and find something for Armadillomon with Armadillomon is very solid. I'm slowly trying to hunt down alt arts. If you have alt arts, DM me on Discord. I need them. I need them bad. Next up, we have 4 copies of Salamon. Again, a lot of DNA Digivolve shenanigans, and end of turn DNA Digivolve with Salamon is very strong. You can clear a board, you can go into your Chimeramon, you can get some recovery off that maybe you needed to survive for the following turn. So we run 4 copies of Salamon because it's one of the rookies that we always want to see. Next up, we are going to run 3 copies of Patamon. Patamon is everybody knows this because of Yellow Hybrid. It pops up all the time because you are going to go into stuff like Rapidmon and clear a board. We do some of that in this deck. And then even if we don't, we do have other ways at the top end to delete stuff with DP reduction. So Patamon getting you that little bit of extra memory is always very solid. And then thinking about DP reduction, we have 2 copies of Labramon. Originally, I was running 3 copies of Labramon, but I had to make some adjustments to the list to fit in some cards at the end of the profile that you'll see, and I'll go over some of the things that you could switch back in if you decide not to go that route. But 2 copies of Labramon. Now, the one thing to remember on Labramon is the draw is not once per turn. So if you delete multiple things throughout the turn, then you get a little bit of extra draw power. If you go into something like Rapidmon, that all happens simultaneously. So if you clear a board at the same time, this all happens for 1 instance. So with Labramon, you would Digivolve into the, say, Rapidmon, clear 4 things, you will only draw 1 time because they're all happening instantly. But if you delete 1 thing with Rapidmon, with its DP reduction, then swing and have some other effect that gives you negative DP, then this will trigger again and you get to draw again. So it doesn't come up a lot that you get multiple draws, but sometimes it does, and you really get to, you have a hand of about 6 cards, or you get to draw about 6 cards in 1 turn. It's kind of crazy. Into our level 4s, we're going to have 4 copies of Angemon. So this is one of the nice things about this deck. The deck has good grind potential. It can go for a long time because you're able to use the Angemon to get that little bit of extra recovery. As you can imagine, we're running Shockomon, so you get a little bit extra recovery from that. And then we have some recovery on the top end as well. So Angemon is really helpful there. The bounce effect comes up every now and then if you're at 3 or more security to bounce to level 3, but most of the time it's really just, it's not a bad thing to hard slam this end of turn DNA Digivolve, get the recovery from Angemon, and then get the recovery from a Shockomon. So we run 4 copies of that. Also, we run more blue, so I like to have maxed out on my Angemon copies. Next up, we are going to run 4 copies of Rapidmon. Seems like a lot because we don't have much green. This is one of the extra colors, one of the 4 colors that we get. But Rapidmon is just super strong. I mean, there's easy ways to get to the 4 memory so that we don't pass turn when we digivolve. Then you have like access to Patamon, you have Armor Purge on this. This can clear a board. We run 6 Tamers in the list, as you'll see in a little bit. So you're usually getting at least a couple of things. You're not always doing like what the craziness that Yellow Hybrid does, where they suspend an entire board and then they give -3 to, or -5 to 3 things, but most of the time it does come up very strongly to clear a board, at least maybe get that extra little DP reduction down so that you can use the other effects to clear the board. 2 copies of Dino Human. This was another one I was running at 3, but again, had to cut some stuff down for the numbers. Dino Human is just, it's our red. It's a 2 to digivolve, so it's a little bit cheaper than the rest of our or the rest of our level 4s. And then it also has a decent inheritable with this give -1k. Again, with the Koromon, you can do some very fine point minus DP reduction so that you can clear an entire board potentially. So 2 copies of this, and then last but not least, I have 1 copy of Magnadramon, or Magnadramon. This, we don't have any Vmon stuff, so this is always just digivolving for 4. Magnadramon is very strong because we do get a blocker out of it. We get the Armor Purge, and then we also have 4 copies of Rapidmon. So that gives us Digimon with Armor Form in the traits. So then the Magnamon is able to be a little bit bigger than 7k. Then say something like, you know, you see it in Imperial and they only have a few copies, you know, they're only going to have the Raidramon, and yeah, we only have the Rapidmon, but it does come up to sometimes make him 11, 13. I've even had all 4 in trash, so I was able to make him a 15k blocker, so really nice part there, and you get to unsuspend, so if you swing with the Rapidmon, get it in trash, digivolve into that, unsuspend, very strong. And then we'll get into our level 5s. As you can imagine, we run 4 copies of Chimeramon. The most consistent way to make sure we can DNA Digivolve with our vast array of colors is to have Chimeramon. We have maxed out on our, or not maxed out, but put a decent amount of blue in there, maxing out on our Angemons, and then putting in the Magnadramon. But at the same time, Chimeramon just makes it so where it almost doesn't matter what level 4 you have. Even if you have like a really bad stack, you can still Chimeramon, take 1 from trash, give him 4 or 5 colors, and then you're able to give a decent amount of negative DP reduction and make him really, really big. So we always max out on Chimeramon. I was running 3, but when I had to make some adjustments to the list, I realized that 4 was very much better. At the time, I also only had 3 copies, so now I have the 4 copies. Then we run 4 copies of Shakomon. This is one of our grind game cards, of course, and it's one of the things the deck does best. You get to recover, you get the bounce level. I've had it happen plenty of times where I was able to get some early recovery into the game and then able to go into Shakomon and then bounce a level 6 when they committed to a board trying to get a level 6 on the board, and then you just get rid of the level 6. So Shakomon is very, very strong in that aspect. You get the recover as long as you're at 5, so even sometimes just hard digivolving into this isn't really bad. And then the inheritable comes up too. There's ways that we can manipulate the inheritable to use it multiple times. Some of you may see where this is going, but you're able to go ahead and give -3 every time you attack. So Shakomon, always very good. You're always wanting to go into Shakomon or Chimeramon 90% of the time. And then I know it might be a little extra to run 9, but I run 1 copy of Sylphimon. This was one that I was running 2 copies of when I had less Chimeramon, but deletion just doesn't quite do it as well in this format. DP reduction, bouncing, all of that is very strong. So this being able to give the DP reduction and delete something kind of works in tandem. You're able to get to some thresholds. You can maybe clear a smaller board, but straight on deletion isn't as impactful this format as it has been in past formats. The DP reduction gets around a lot of things, especially with stuff like armors. But it also has the when attacking effect. Similar to Shakomon, instead of -3, it just deletes a level 5, or I mean a 5k DP. So it's very strong. Like I said, I was running it at 2, but I dropped it down to 1 to increase the Chimeramon because that minus DP, especially with Chimeramon lingering for the following turn, very strong. Next up, we have our level 6s. We run 3 copies of War Greymon. This is how we're going to manipulate our when attacking effects a lot, like with our Sylphimon and our Shakomon. You're able to go ahead, restand, give neg DP, pop a body, give more neg DP. Dino Human is also not a once per turn effect. I do believe the Koromon is a once per turn, so you only get the 1k minus from Koromon once, but everything else isn't really a once per turn. And if you have a bunch of rookies on the field, you can bounce that if you have the security with Angemon. So very strong card. The issue with this card in another version that I was playing recently is 11k is terrible in this format. You would think, well, there's hybrids and then there's not a whole lot of top end. You know, some decks are only running like 4 top end. Yeah, that's enough to kill this guy. He always dies to security. He always dies to, say, a Wyvern's Breath or an Eden's Javelin out of security. Like, Wyvern's Breath, of course, but Eden's Javelin is something that you don't really want to die from a lot, but it's something that I've had happen a bunch of times. So War Greymon being at 11k has been an issue, and we fixed that in one of the things that I adjusted for the list that I'll go over here in a second. And then last up, we have 2 copies of Ophanimon Fall Down Mode. It's just recovery. It's you get to search it. You can't search the War Greymon off of your Armadillomon, unfortunately, but you can search the Ophanimon. I really want to try to fit in Yellow Memory Boost, but the list is already tight. You have to fit in enough stuff so that you can get your DNA Digivolves. You got to fit your DNA Digivolve guys and the other stuff that I put into the list to make it kind of work a little bit better and be a little bit more consistent. So I wasn't able to fit the yellow boosts in, but Ophanimon just being able to get that extra recovery. We're never popping stuff. This is one of the 5 colors. You know, this is technically a 5-color deck, but the purple from Ophanimon never comes up. We're never able to delete stuff because we don't have any purple bottom end, but the recovery is nice. It is always there. You can always get the recovery, and when it's deleted, you can play a body out. This is just a good way to get like one of your other colors for one of the DNA Digivolve guys you have, or maybe if you want a little bit of extra search, you can play out the Armadillomon or something like that. So running 2 of those just for the recovery. Next up, we'll go into our option cards. I'm running 3 copies of Eden's Javelin. Eden's Javelin is just all around a great removal card. I tried to fit in Wyvern's Breath over Eden's. The draw power from Eden's and the ability to get rid of smaller bodies without passing too much memory, or maybe you're able to give a little bit of DP reduction. You don't want to just hard slam like a Wyvern's to give it extra 15 for no reason. Eden's is really nice to not pass over as much memory, and again, the draw power is solid. If it comes out of security, it gets the effect. So 3 copies of Eden's I think has been perfectly fine. Next up, we're going to go, you'll see what these are for in a second, but we have 2 copies of Lightning Joust and 1 copy of a Delicate Plan. Lightning Joust is a fun card. It feels high rolly. I was playing this deck a while back before I had the Chimeramons and the Rapidmon, and it was really just a little bit of DNA Digivolve fit in with Lightning Joust. I was running like more Sylphimon, more Shockomon, so that I could get into the War Greymon and then use the Lightning Joust. But sometimes it doesn't always feel the best, and ADP, you have to see the ADP. But playing the Lightning Joust helps with the aggression from the War Greymon. The War Greymon gets that extra DP buff regardless. So usually you're at lower security than your opponent. So using Lightning Joust to do that, to get that extra little DP bonus and that security attack +1, very strong. And of course, everybody knows what ADP does. Stops the pesky security effects, so you don't have to worry about getting run out by security control, which is gaining some popularity recently, and the option cards that Yellow Hybrid is known for. So that's what we're running for our option cards. And then to run those Lightning Jousts, we have 4 copies of Hero Amanakawa. Hero is just generically great. I'll also go ahead and reveal the last 3 cards, which is Kodahita. Hero is just generically great. It's a memory setter. If your level 5s or higher attack, they get a DP boost by 2k, so that also helps if you have the Lightning Joust and you have the a hero out on field. Then War Greymon is 15. The only thing that's usually killing him out of security at that point is decks that are running Susanomon, so Yellow Hybrid. If you have multiple heroes out or multiple Lightning Jousts in effect with that, then you even get over those. So just being able to get that little bit of extra buff to make the War Greymon survive the checks and maybe get that push that you need to really finish the game, super strong combo. So we run 4 of this, or 3 of this, because I was running 2, but when you don't see the memory setter, you have a really bad time. Even if you have 3 Cody, everybody that's been playing in the meta knows that Cody is really good in Yellow Hybrid because of his fact that when a 2-color Digimon swings, you get to give the negative DP. Sure, you don't get that with War Greymon, but you do get it with the rest of the deck. We still run Rapidmon, and you still get that little bit of extra memory at the start of your main phase when you have this out. So even if you have like a couple of Codys out, if they memory choke you, then it hurts. But if you have like 1 hero and 1 Cody out, then you're starting usually with 4 memory regardless, and that's enough memory to Lightning Joust ADP, or you know, or to raise up, or you can Digivolve into the War Greymon and then Lightning Joust, or then ADP, and then go from there. So Very, very strong combo, both of these. And this gives us 6 Tamers for our Rapidmon. Rapidmon doesn't require them to be yellow, which is really nice. So you can just, in tandem, these work really well together. So that is it for the list. Now, I will go over some changes that I did have to make before I got this list to where I wanted to be. So one thing I was running at the top end was Serafimon. This works really well with the way the deck functions. You get the recovery, and it's only a 3 cost. It is small, but it does get that extra security attack. So one thing you can do is bounce back and forth between this and the Ophanimon. I've been thinking about going back and forth on it, but the Ophanimon being able to play with a body has really helped more than anything, so I've kept it around. That and its top end that is activated, that lets Cody trigger so that you can give that extra little bit of DP reduction. So I still have gone with that. I was running just like 1 copy of this and 2 copies of Ophanimon, but I had to fit in ADP and 2 copies of Joust, and when that happens, it really messes with the numbers. I ended up having to take out 1 Labramon, the one of Serafimon, and 1 Dinohumon, so it dropped my numbers. I was running 14 rookies, I believe, and 12 or 13 champions. I think it was 12. So I had to drop it down to 11 and 13 rookies. Now I'm still running the 8 level 5s, and if that ends up working out, like if it's a little bit too much, I'm always, you could easily take out like the Dinohumon and maybe run that Serafimon for your top end. That way you still have 8, and you have 6 top end for your level 6s. So that's always strong. You can do that. The Labramon, it was an easy cut because 2, 3, it never really came up super often. The draw is nice, but it's not mandatory. But I do like to run it just because of the fact that it's another rookie with a decent inheritable for minus DP. There's some other things you could probably run, maybe like that Recovery Patamon or something like that. So, and then, like I said, I needed to fit those in, so the easy cut was this. I can still get the recovery, maybe not that extra aggression, but if you don't have Hero or like a Lightning Joust, this dies like all the time. If you thought the War Greymon dies when you play this deck, this Serafimon dies all the time. I almost never could get 2 checks in. Even though a lot of the stuff in the format is small, he would always die to the first check. It's very frustrating. And then, again, if you don't want to run the high roll with the red package and the ADP and Lightning Joust, you can do what I was running before. I was running 2 TKs and I was running 1 Kari. So the thing about TK is TK helps you fix your hands, but you need that extra DP a lot of the time. And then this thing with Kari is Kari lets you get a little bit of extra memory when you recover. So if you have access to like Ophanimon and you don't have a Cody on the field or something like that, you can Digivolve with a Kari on the field, suspend the Kari, gain a memory when you recover off Ophanimon, and still continue your turn. But at the same time, the thing about these is when you don't have them, when you don't have the hero, your top end has a really strong chance of dying. And they're really good to help fix, not pass turn with Ophanimon or fix your hand with TK. But I was playing in my last locals that I was running this deck, and I was running these changes. I was running the Serafimon, the Labramon, the Dinohumon, the 2 TKs, and the Kari. And I had it come up a lot where the first game I played against Security Control, and I just hard lost without access to ADP or anything. Playing against I think it was the exact list that Kevin Besta got 3rd place in at the core regional. You just can't do anything. If you don't get enough bodies out, they see enough removal, which they almost always have the removal or recovery, you just die, and then they just keep looping, and then you can't do anything about it. So without having access to the ADP, I just scooped that game. I made it about 10 minutes into the first game, realized I couldn't do anything, scooped, and then the next game it was the same exact thing. Couldn't quite get there. If they get the recovery, they set up, and they have everything, there's nothing you can really do. So it didn't help with the recovery in the grind game. Second match I played against Yellow Rapid, and against Yellow Rapid, I could get there, but at the same time, they're recovering up. So I got game 1, but then I lost game 2. And then by that point, we're both grind decks, we're both control decks. This one's more of a mid-range deck. It has some aggression, but it also has some control aspects, more mid-rangey, whereas Yellow Rapid is just control, more or less, in my opinion. And when that happens, if you don't win game 1 and then go to time into game 2 and you make it to the game 3, like when we started game 3, there was only like 3 minutes left in the round. So I ended up drawing at that one. And then I played against Diaboromon in round 3. And again, Diaboromon tries to build up, and I could keep the board clear, but I couldn't put on that pressure because I was only swinging in like 1 check. And every time I'd swing in my War Greymon unsuspend, I'd hit an 11k. There's just all the Diaboromon are all 11k. I'd hit an Armageddon, I'd hit a D-Digivolve. The D-Digivolve wasn't really as big of a thing, but at the same time, it was really much, it was an issue to just hit into the 11ks and die. So with that, I realized that you really do need that little bit of extra aggression. This isn't like BT4 whenever, or BT5, whenever you could usually survive in at 11k and you'd be okay. You know, there was some top end, sure, but in this format, you really have to have that extra DP, I feel like, and the ADP helps a lot. So these are some changes you can make if you want to go a little bit more controlled, but just know against the Yellow Rapid matchup, it's very hard unless you can clutch out game 1 and then maybe go to time in game 2, which feels really scummy, but that's all that you can really do because they stabilize way too quickly. And then against security control, you just can't do anything without a delicate plan and extra security checks. So this is what I decided on, and taking these out. So if you want to, you know, depending on what your locals are like, I have a lot of Yellow Rapid, I have security control and stuff like that. So this didn't do it, Chief. It didn't make it. It's a good deck, it's fun, but without the little bit of high roll aspect, I couldn't really get where I wanted to. So, but all that being said, guys, this list is super fun. Had a great time with it. Chimeramon is such a busted card. Being able to use Yellow Rapid not in Yellow Hybrid, it feels awesome. I do like just the extra aggression that Hero gives you. I always like fitting Lightning Joust and a Delicate Plant into stuff. So there's stuff like Pepsi Bond and stuff like that I always found fun. So but with all that being said, guys, I hope you guys try this deck out and have a blast with it as I have been having a blast. I'm going to jam this deck all the way into the next format. I may even try to make it work into BT9. Who knows? There's so much other stuff in BT9 I'm excited to play. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll have more coming your way. Like the video and leave any comments down below about any additions. Maybe you've been running something similar to this, like the Armadillomon stuff, or anything like that. Just be sure to leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.